Hello and welcome. My name is Janelle Ketcher, and I'm the Digital Media Manager at UCLA Arts and Healing, where our mission is to transform lives through creative expression by integrating the innate benefits of the arts with mental health practices for self-discovery, connection, and empowerment. I'm so excited to be live with Ping Ho today, our founder and director, to help celebrate Social Emotional Learning Day. Over the next half hour, we are going to discuss social emotional learning, how the arts can help, and then we will end with a fun activity. So, you ready to get started?
You bet.
All right. So, Ping, to start off, what is social emotional learning?
So social emotional learning includes things like being aware of how you feel, having some skills to manage how you feel, having empathy for others, developing positive relationships, being able to make and pursue positive goals, and also things like making responsible decisions. It's a mixture of things, all related to self and others.
Awesome. Thank you. And how can the arts be helpful for social emotional learning? Because I think maybe people might not think about the arts and those initiatives together.
You're so right. People who do the arts do them because they feel good, and sometimes we don't think about what is it about the arts that are uniquely helpful for social emotional learning. One of them is they're uniquely capable of enhancing positive emotions and not just reducing negative ones. And if you're in a group of people, there will be spontaneous laughter very often in a shared creative experience. And this can and engagement in a positive activity like this can serve as an alternative pathway to mindfulness for people who struggle with seated meditation practices, for example. The arts are also incredible for social connection. And I'm actually going to backtrack and say the two other things about mindfulness as far as as the arts, as far as emotions go. One is that it's engagement in the arts actually occupies so much of the brain that it quite literally crowds out room for stress, grief, and pain. So it can help calm that lower part of the brain that is protecting us from threat, especially when we've experienced stress or trauma. And it can then enable the upper part of the brain, the executive part of the brain that makes decisions and thinks sequentially and solves problems and engages socially. And that part of the brain can reactivate when we can calm the lower brain. And the other thing, too, is that the arts provide us with a nonverbal pathway for communication. So, what can happen under stress or when there's ability differences or language differences or even cultural prohibitions is that sometimes we cannot speak about the speech center of the brain is actually impacted and we cannot actually communicate what we're thinking or feeling. And so the arts do provide us a way to engage our visual, our auditory, and our motor pathways to express how we feel when words are not there. So
Mhm.
going back to the social connection, which I wanted to state at the beginning because it is so crucial, that we have the arts, a shared creative experience has kind of an organic way of enabling people to empathize with each other and make connections and build a sense of community. In other words, it provides a container for being seen and heard, which is what the human spirit craves.
Mhm.
One of my favorite quotes is by trauma expert Bessel van der Kolk, who says, "Children will go to almost any length to be seen and heard." So, if that's what we really need is to be seen and heard, then the arts provide a very organic medium where it doesn't feel like we're in therapy. Now, what I'm talking about is not therapy, it's just a supportive experience. However, people don't tend to go seek mental health care often because of the stigma associated with therapy. So, this provides a community based way to give people support that they need, hopefully preventing the need for therapy. So, that's the vision.
Yeah.
And the problem we're facing as a community now is this intense problem with disconnection, which is has been exacerbated by the pandemic.
Hmm.
And disconnection is actually central to trauma and intolerance and loneliness and end of life care and chronic pain. And these things are very difficult for us to solve as a society. And the arts could play a very powerful role in that.
Hmm. I sometimes I forget that we're so invested, like you and I and our team are so into the work that we do. I wonder if we could just touch really quickly too on like what is creative expression, and when we say the arts, what do we mean?
Yes, exactly. Is it the arts as usual? That's a huge question because if it was the arts as usual, then we really wouldn't need this element of this adding the mental health practices. So, what can happen, unfortunately, with the arts is we it can lead to unintended consequences like self judgment and anxiety and even excessive vulnerability, and with no plan for addressing that when it comes up.
Mm,
So, the way we approach the arts, as you well know, is we do a number of things. And if you think about it, think about how would you teach someone to empathize, or how would you teach someone other than saying you need to empathize? How can we really teach someone how to be aware of themselves and aware of others? And so we set up activities so that they kind of serve as a metaphor for life, and then we can reflect on them and ask people, how are you feeling? So if we want to teach them to become aware of their feelings, we will in a moment experience an activity which I believe will create a shift in how we feel, and we can take that moment and then we can explore it so people can learn in an embodied way, which then will stay with them in a more meaningful and long lasting way. So that would be one example. Another example is we encourage synchrony, doing things together. Sometimes it means literally doing something at the same time, like singing the same note or moving in the same way. Sometimes it just means like call and response. I play something, then you play something. And even in the theater world, the yes and approach. I do something and you take that idea and you run with it. You don't say, you can't do that, because that's not how a scene works. You actually have to respond to what the person gives you. And all those are ways that people can feel seen and heard. And all those are things that fall in the category of synchrony. And when we are in sync with other people, so studies of rhythm and movement with synchrony actually show that it enhances sense of connection and similarity to others, and makes people act more altruistically to one another. So if someone's being treated unfairly at the end of a study, person's more likely to speak up for that person if they had had a synchronistic experience with them.
mm,
And if a person is playing in sync with an experimenter when they're in an fMRI machine looking at what's going on in the brain, you actually find that the reward center of the brain activates. So we're actually hardwired to want to be in sync with each other. And we take that capacity and we enhance that in our arts activities. We try to encourage a lot of synchrony, which builds community and empathy organically. And trying to think of some other things that we do. Language. Oh my goodness. Language is so important. How we talk about the arts. So typically, what's like the typical thing you hear as an artist, because you're a visual artist? When you make something, what do people say to you?
wow, that's so beautiful.
Right. And that in and of itself isn't harmful. What if you're in a whole room of people and you hear that, or somebody gets that comment?
Or the counter side of it could be like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or what is it?
What is it?
How does what is it make you feel as an artist? You certainly
Like,
don't feel understood.
well, well, I could go on a tangent, yeah, but
So, and that's just one example. There are other examples of just talk, and this applies to life. I think that's the main point I want to get across is we're not just talking about art, we're talking about life. How do we talk to people in general in a way that makes them feel heard? So if we say but is big in our language, and we have a running gag in our teaching. The word but and is a new word we've invented, and but and means I said but and I really wanted to say and instead. So I'm correcting myself. So the thing about and is it's a way to say, I validate, I hear what you're saying, and here's something else rather than but. So a lot of our language is oriented towards reducing power struggles and reducing resistance. And on the positive side, also making people feel safe.
Hmm.
If we think about it, at least, somewhere around 25% of our population has experienced some form of trauma in the form of like physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. And now after the pandemic, I'm sure that that percentage is a lot higher. So the way we approach all our teaching is we assume right from the get-go that whoever we're working with is traumatized, and we treat them with the same level of support and care in how we talk about things as we would with somebody who has experienced trauma. And in fact, one interesting comment that our certificate program trainees make often at the end of the training is they'll say, I feel like a better person, which is so interesting. And I was thinking about that today. I was thinking, well, if we are mindful about the words that we speak, it does make us a better person, or it makes us feel like a better person because it makes other people feel like better people. And it's kind of the gift that comes back to us.
Hmm.
So I guess the other thing that we are very thoughtful of is making sure that lessons are explicit. So I always tell this anecdote about how when my daughter was little, really like a toddler, I would clean up for her, thinking and hoping that I was modeling cleaning up. And what I was actually modeling was that somebody is going to clean up for you. That if we don't actually make a lesson help a group of people understand what was the intended lesson behind this experience we just shared, if we don't have time to reflect and share and process that, then what people come away with may not be what we hoped they would. So that these are just some examples of how we work. And we believe in teaching that we can teach anyone, and that makes this work sustainable, and it enables everybody to have a public health safety net. That's what I'm
Hmm.
everywhere in recreation, in schools, and healthcare.
And in terms of goal setting, I know this answer because I've been through the programs, but when we're developing programs or developing a class or workshop for that social emotional learning component, what are the types of goals that we can have either for ourselves or the population or group we're working with?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up because this is a big missing piece in the arts community right now. Well, first of all, the arts community is just starting to wake up to the need to even gather data on how it's impacting the people. There's a one other really key piece that happens even before you deliver an activity, which is figuring out what that population actually needs,
Hmm.
because a lot of times we have an activity and we randomly say, well, I want to give you this experience. And it will probably be a positive experience. However, it may not be enough to make whatever change that population needs unless the activity is designed around that need. So if I have a group of people who, for example, say kids who are insensitive to other students who have special needs, right? We might need to teach them self-regulation tools, like how to stop themselves, and alternatively, how to be sensitive, how to read nonverbal cues, how to be sensitive to how someone else is feeling. So then we would structure the activity around that need, and then we're much more likely to be able to measure an outcome.
Hmm. Love it. I'm thinking too of and maybe this is too premature to bring up, but our mindful music making program that we are developing. There's a little
Yes.
Easter egg for everyone. Um, the goals associated with that too, and what we're able to do working, you can still identify goals while working remotely with people as well.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. I think that was a big surprise for all of us, that we thought that this work would be hurt by the remote process. However, what it's done is it's actually expanded our reach. And I find that for every element that we lose from not being live, we gain something else different that's beneficial from the virtual world.
Mhm.
So now I forgot what the question was. Um,
Oh, well, I mean, I have another question that kind of ties
oh,
into
okay.
it,
All
but
right.
why are the arts even more important now? And that question's kind of in the context of us still being in a virtual world and a hopefully post-pandemic world soon.
Yes. Well, earlier I mentioned, like, for example, the intense disconnection we have. So when the disease is disconnection, right? We don't have a pill for that. we don't have we don't have any treatments for that are mass deliverable. What we do have is the possibility that everyone could share in an arts experience. And that's a plus, it's pleasant. It's something that people could enjoy. So we're not talking about something that people have to go through to be fixed. We're talking about something that enable people to experience themselves and others more meaningfully. And and the other thing too is we have a major issue with lack of access to mental health care. Huge issue that keeps getting swept under the rug. So not only is there lack of access, there are cultural stigmas, there are financial considerations, there are legal considerations. There are a lot of reasons why people will not go, even if they have access to care. So we
Mhm.
have to come up with some other way um, to teach people give people the social emotional skills that they need and help people to be able to help each other.
And what that sparked another question. What is that relationship, in your opinion, between social emotional learning and preventative? You know, because
Yeah.
we talk about kind of care on a spectrum sometimes, and there's preventative care, and then sometimes you might need that next level of mental health or whatever it be. But it also starts with preventative, right?
That's a great question. Because a lot of times people say, is this therapy? What is this? And I always say, well, if the arts are over here and therapy is over here, then we live in the land of prevention in the middle. And what therapy we define simply as identifying and treating disorders. So we're not approaching anybody as if they have something that needs to be treated. That said, when you're in a circle and you're seeing what's going on and you're reading body language or you're hearing what people are saying, and if it sounds like someone has a real need for some mental health care, then that setting enables us to identify someone who needs it and to be able to refer and say, you know what, let's go see the school counselor. How do you feel about talking to somebody about what you just shared, because it sounds like you're not safe,
Mhm.
or something like that.
Right,
uh, so yes, it can be helpful in serving the therapeutic uh, intention, and at the same time, we're actually hoping to prevent the need.
right. And something I've always loved about the arts and creative expression is that there's so many modalities to do it. So through drumming or through other musical instruments or rhythm, art, theater, dance, there's so many opportunities for those emotions to come out into the real world, right?
Yes, absolutely. They provide, and it's important that people enjoy. And the nice thing is they can choose, like for example, young people, like teenagers and young adults, love theater activities. Whenever we do a series of activities, they'll say, "Next time, could we start with that one first?" um, and different boys and girls love drumming. We're going to actually do drumming as the activity today. Uh, it's great when you can find something that will engage boys, especially little boys in school who have a lot of energy and they need to get their energy out. And so movement is helpful if we have a situation where energy also needs to be expended. And thank you for referring to the mindful music making program. That one is a very calming program where everyone is sitting and playing with little hand instruments to make nature sounds. And what's so amazing is a room full of very busy, active, or even chaotic, like elementary school students, will instantly calm down and be silent. And this apparently works across the age. I have not seen it with every age group yet. It works with every age group, according to Karen Calhoun, who developed the program. So, how exciting to be able to do something simple, which reminds me of one anecdote, maybe a couple of anecdotes I want to share. That there was a woman who came to one of our trauma related workshops once, and you could see the trauma because she was exhibiting a classic body posture related to trauma. It's just completely closed in, shut down, didn't move, looked like she wasn't there.
Mhm.
Her body was there, but she wasn't there. And anyway, long story short, after the first session, she said she didn't remember anything, but the next morning she did remember some stuff. And she started to feel feelings, and so she called me and said, "Uh-oh, I'm starting to feel feelings." So all this was about not feeling feelings. So now that she was starting to explore the stuff in her body that was holding the trauma, she's starting to feel feelings, and she was very anxious. And she said, "What do I do?" So I said, "What makes you feel good?" And she said, "Listening to music." I said, "Well, try listening to music." Lo and behold, I don't even remember seeing her the next two sessions. I don't remember what happened. But 2 months later, she came back to a movement program. And you wouldn't have known it was the same woman. You know, she had come in very disheveled the first time. Second time, glowing, hair done, looking at people, touching people, smiling. And I thought, oh my goodness, this transformation is amazing. Um, and I did consult an expert on uh, um, trauma to ask, well, how long does it usually take in a therapeutic context for someone to get from there to here? And that person said about a year to develop that trust relationship, right? So that that could happen. And I'm thinking, this is not like, I'm not saying this is a magic pill. However, if something as simple as listening to music could have that kind of impact, wow, think of all the people that could be helped, because most people do have access to some sort of form of music. And
Yeah.
my soapbox right there.
I no, I think the key there is that accessibility. We all have our phones or our computers or our CDs if you still use those. We have those to help us throughout whatever we're going through.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
I think the other anecdote that really stands out to me is in our writing, community writing programs. We often have people share something that they'll say they've never shared it before with anyone else, something traumatic typically, and they'll discover that other people in the room have had the same thing, and within an hour a room full of strangers can become each other's closest confidants. And when I witness stuff like that, I go, why aren't we doing this on a mass level? You know, it's efficient, it's powerful, it's inexpensive, it's there's just no reason not to be doing it. So that's why I think that the arts as a healing practice will become the next major practice to be adopted, healing practice to be adopted by the public, because it is capable of addressing some things that I am not aware of any other medium being able to address.
Right. Well, should we give it a try and see how
Yeah.
it feels?
So when I say the word drumming, two things come into people's minds. One, I don't have a drum. Two, I'm not a drummer. Okay. If I was a drum, if it was all about being a drummer, I wouldn't be sitting here and I'd say goodbye. So first of all, what do you have that you're going to use as a drum today?
Thanks for asking. Will it show up? Oh, I have a
Oh, yay. I love how it just appeared.
yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I have two examples. I was once sitting in the back seat of the car with my grandchildren and looking for something on which to drum, and I found this. It's my diaper bag, nice, soft, squishy. This was actually one of my all-time favorite drums. I am going to use a pillow, though, to demonstrate, and I like pillows because they're soft and they don't hurt. I'm going to show you some different ways to drum in the form of a weather check-in, which you can do if you're a teacher. You can do this with your students. If you're anybody, you can do this with your kids or your staff, right? So show me if you're feeling sunny, you would just hit the drum in the middle like this. And you can practice along if you wish. If you're feeling windy, you can brush the top of the drum. If you're feeling rainy, you can tap the drum like this. If you're feeling stormy, you scratch the drum. And if you're feeling snowy, we can just let our hands fall silently on the drum, just like snow falls. So we'll review: sunny, windy, rainy, stormy, and snowy. So, Janelle, how are you feeling today? Can you show me on your drum?
I'm feeling kind of a combo of
Ooh. Okay, thank you. So you combined the two right there. Thank you. I was feeling a little this earlier, and now I'm just so. And this is also how we can teach kids, like that we can feel more than one thing at the same time. So those are different ways you can play the drums. So I'm going to play a heartbeat rhythm. And the thing about drums, and here's the whole secret to drumming. So with that second question of I'm not a drummer, you don't have to be one. You have a heartbeat. Words are rhythms. That's the whole secret to drumming. I'm going to actually teach you how to make rhythms right after this. We're going to just play this for about 2 minutes. I'm going to play a heartbeat rhythm. And notice I'm not going to go, if I went really slowly, I think half of you will be asleep. So I'm going to do a slightly peppier heartbeat rhythm. And I'm actually going to try to simultaneously, I might play it. No, that doesn't sound as good. I'm just going to play it like this. You can use the hand motions I just taught you on the pillow or on whatever you were drumming with. And you can actually play along. You can play along with me, or you can play along in the quiet parts when I'm not playing. It's up to you. And here's where you get to experiment. If you feel like you prefer to just listen, that's wonderful. There's no wrong way to do this. If you prefer to try to move with it, like you take a little tissue or something and you'd rather just gently, silently, slowly move along with it, you are welcome to do that. This is one of the principles with which we work. There's no wrong way to do this. So I'm going to play for about 2 minutes and remember to breathe. Ready? Go. I was estimating 2 minutes. I was just shy of it. So, first question, tune into how you feel. How do you feel now that you've been doing this activity? So, all our listeners, tune into how you feel. Was there a change? And guess what? It's okay if there wasn't one. That's part of the way we work too. Janelle, how do you feel?
I think my little bit of sleepiness has kind of shifted to a calm. So I think I was maybe a little worried, like not worried, but I was like, oh, I'm so sleepy. Versus now I'm feeling like, no, I'm just calm. I'm calm.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
sometimes, if we're in one headspace and we don't want to be in another, if we listen to a piece of music that's out of sync with where we are, then it might not feel good, which is why we should always tune in to see what is it that I really need to listen to. That's actually a principle of music therapy, which is you try to match the music to the mood, and then you can shift it out of that mood gradually That is a little jolting if you're feeling really down and somebody's playing cheerful music, for example.
Mhm.
So, so if you want to add a positive affirmation to a beat, right? Like, say, I'm going to say, I am calm. I am calm. Or you could have students repeat that over, or you could repeat it to yourself as an adult. That these are ways to also reinforce positive goals that we want to achieve. So,
I noticed too, it was really important that you reminded me to breathe. I think, and maybe people who facilitate can relate to this.
yes,
Is like you get nervous. So like we're doing this live thing, so you get a little bit nervous, but it's like, no, continue breathing,
yes,
right?
yes, absolutely. In fact, it's funny because breathing is supposed to be automatic. We do also have control over it. So
Right,
sometimes we forget, and when we're anxious, we tend to shut in and forget to breathe, which heightens our anxiety.
right.
So yes, and we ordinarily, if you're going to drum, you should do it for at least 5 minutes to be able to start letting that self judge go. And this is the other beautiful thing about the arts process is it gives you a chance to tune in and to hear that little chatter, hear the negative things we say to ourselves in our heads all day long that are maybe ingrained from when we were young and somebody well meaning was not using constructive words with us or whatever that damages our sense of self esteem or worth or confidence. And so this is a mindful moment for us.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you so much. Is there anything else? Is there anything else with the activity or anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Oh my goodness. I don't think so. I will just leave you with one fun thing. If you find a good rhythm of a set of words, like, Mike Domeno is co-developer of the Beat the Odds drumming program. Uh,
Great.
and there was a school counselor who needed some cool beats, and she asked me for some. So I asked him, and he sent me this phrase: bread, cheese, don't forget meat. And it goes like this. I'm going to use my chest just to show you don't need anything at all. Bread, cheese, don't forget meat. Bread, cheese, don't forget meat. Now, if you asked me tomorrow, what was that rhythm? I'd go. But because I know it's bread, cheese, don't forget meat, I can remember it. And even my 4-year-old granddaughter can remember it. And you can change it to I want veggies to eat if you're not a meat eater. So anyway, once you come up with some cool words, write them down because you'll have all these cool phrases and rhythms and it'll be easy to remember. And that's my parting tip.
Ping's parting tip.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good ring to
Nothing
it.
lofty. It's got to be about rhythm.
Thank you. I'm just going to share a slide really quickly just to let people know. Can you see that ping?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. And this was inspired, the Social Emotional Learning Day was inspired by cellday.org, who organizes this initiative. So you can visit their website to learn more. Also, letting you know that we have some upcoming trainings, including our certificate program in social emotional arts, which is an online all of these are online. We have a free program coming up as part of our Hope series, the checking in embodied practices for resilience and communal healing. And then, of course, as Ping just mentioned, our Beat the Odds online facilitator training program. So please head to our website at www.uclaartsandhealing.org/programs to learn more about those. And thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you soon.
Happy Social Emotional Learning Day.
Yay! Bye!
Bye.